How to go from an average level player to a pro player in Apex Legends is no easy task, but today I'm going to share my 12 Apex Legends tips or 12 things that I wish I knew when I started playing to help you improve fast, win more, and help you die just a little bit less. Let's jump right in. The biggest mistake I see time and time again is a failure to actually improve and build up your skill, and one thing that is causing this is running around and picking up items and really just not playing the actual game. Overlooting is one of the worst things you can do. Anytime spent excessively trying to get the most perfect loadout, armor, attachments, and not just taking a battle really means you are not getting better. You obviously still need to get something to fight with, but once you do have a decent gun, maybe a better armor, take the fight to the enemy so you can learn about engagements and just overall fighting. If you do get good loot fast, you statistically have the advantage, and you should be taking full advantage of this by pressuring those who are around you. Not to mention, overlooting in ranked Apex could mean more than you just not improving, as you could be rotating late, are giving up positioning, and you're starting the game off more or less behind. The second thing to know is that gunplay pretty much trumps everything if you are a new or underskilled player. People often get hyper fixated on what legend they should run, and they might bounce from legend to legend as they just are not having success. However, in a lot of the time, it is not the legend you are playing. Every player should focus on building skill and familiarity with every weapon by utilizing the firing range. Simply spending just a few minutes in the range, even if it's 5 minutes before a play session, is going to help tremendously with your consistency in your gunfights. Do not overthink the legend you are taking and focus on what really matters in this first-person shooter, which is shooting. Almost in the opposite sense of gunplay, one thing that I still see others falling into a trap for is just overestimating how much actual movement tech they need to be incorporating into the gameplay. There are countless pros at the top of the game who frankly do not do anything crazy when it comes to movement. Having all the movement tech like super gliding, wall jumping, tap strafing, and so on does help, but if you are struggling, I find that keeping it simple is going to be best. The little things like putting your guns away is honestly insanely important on its own, and it pains me to see players running around with their guns out. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I do see players making when it does come to fighting or just rotating. Even if it is short bursts of movement in the middle of a fight, put your weapons down, slide jump forward, and then immediately recall them. The more you do this, the faster you're going to be and the better you are going to become. The fourth small thing that actually has a large effect on your gameplay is simply just using more small heals, or at least healing up more frequently. If you get hit for 40 damage, pop 2 cells, stay healthy. Staying healthy in Apex is critical, and you want to be sure to not peak when you are already semi-weak. If you are something like 120 health out of your 200, and you get hit for another 50, you are just inviting enemies to push you, as basically they did enough damage to you to capitalize and win the fight. Doing your part to micromanage your healing and staying as healthy as possible is going to be paramount. We're not done yet, but do me a huge favor, hit the like button. It massively helps the video, the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. I still cannot emphasize how much grenades are literally OP in Apex. Any Apex player needs to always have at least one of these to use when it really does matter, and if you do have a purple or a gold backpack, 2 or 3 honestly should be considered if you are an aggressive player. Grenades can be great to start off a fight with some big damage, either with a vert nade to the sky or maybe just a straight up stick with an arc star. Opening with the stick is honestly one of the easiest ways to start off a squad wipe. A secondary use to this is of course to follow up with a grenade after some big damage by flushing enemies out of cover when they are already weak, or you can just use a thermite to slow rushing enemies down or track them as they do get those ticks of damage. Grenades are so multi-purpose, and in a lot of ways they are just as important as your guns. Treat them like a third weapon that you have, and you are going to be well rewarded. Starting off on the right foot is the first step to success in any match, which does mean your drop or fly in is just as crucial to your match performance as it has ever been. Not making it to endgame if you're dying off drop, well, it's probably your fly in. There is nearly no scenario where your velocity while flying in should ever be below 130 to 140. Keeping your speed up and being the first to hit the ground really does matter. A half second is all it takes for you to beat an enemy to the gun if you are contested, and this could mean the difference between getting that 20 bomb in that match or just dying. This is all it takes, less than a second. Always be on the lookout to see who is around, where they are landing, and if you can, don't land right on someone so you are not 50-50ing praying to get that gun. And the biggest tip of them all is to not land right on your teammates. You want to land close, but you don't want to be following each other's looting paths where you both are just getting half gear. Be smart, pay attention to your drop, and don't underestimate this. In relation to the previous tip, we also need to talk about getting those 20 kill games, and in general, the Battle Royale's randomness that some are going to struggle to overcome, if not everyone. Great players are going to get tons of kills from game to game, but don't sweat it too much, as frankly, a lot of things are very random, as it is in every loot-based battle royale. The biggest thing I still need to even remind myself today is not to let 3 deaths off drop spiral into a wave of negativity that is going to affect how I perform. It's easier said than done, but keeping it cool and focused is highly desirable. If you are looking for high kill games, you'll have to drop pretty hot with enemies, but really landing right next to that hot area is going to be the best thing to do if you are a less experienced player. This way you can utilize third partying to your advantage, get some reliable loot without scrambling off the drop. You may not be able to get as many kills, but surviving will just be a little bit easier, and you're going to build your skill up a little bit better this way, as you can get better fights in. A big thing that I don't really think deserves as hard of a negative type of discussion around it is going to be third partying in Apex. It's frustrating when it does happen to you, but if you do see enemies trading, third partying is absolutely the best thing you can do to improve your odds of success, regardless if it feels cheap. This doesn't mean ratting or camping and waiting per se, but if an enemy is fighting, you need to take full action and capitalize on this opportunity. A massive way to improve your success is to watch the kill feed and look for knocks or trades on each team to better understand how many players are left. Once you really get down the audio of gun sounds, you can match the gunfire stopping to what is showing up in the kill feed to better inform your decision and playmaking. Speaking of decision making, taking decisive action is one thing I do see newer or less experienced players continuing to struggle with. Lack of experience or sometimes just straight up nerves of a player do get the best of them, and thus they really end up doing nothing. Taking no action, sitting in a corner, hiding is 100 times, 1,000 times worse than just doing something. Rather than doing nothing, try something out, see if it works, and if it doesn't, or if it does, learn from this mistake or the success to better improve yourself. Every engagement is a learning experience, so don't just re-queue into a game without taking some information in from that match. One thing is for sure though, not doing anything is going to lead to no improvement and just wasting your time. Since we are on the topic of fighting, combat fighting and using certain tactics to improve your odds of success is mega simple, but it's definitely worth a mention. First, fighting in the open is a massive do not do in this game. You are just going to get rocked, especially if you're at endgame. Certain things that you can do to extend your life are going to be armor swapping death boxes, keeping high ground, using terrain, buildings, cover, and doors as way to stop incoming damage and create separation from your enemies. Anytime you can successfully keep enemies away while you do what we talked about earlier, getting some micro heals in there, you are going to improve your chances at winning your fights. The next tip is one that everyone does have a hard time with, both pros and noobs alike, and this is understanding when to give up a fight. In a lot of ways, this is almost harder than taking a fight. The best way to invite everyone in the server to come over for a third party is by taking too long in your fights. Additionally, if you are trying to fight uphill or if you are fighting someone in a power position, you need to have the self-respect to say, this isn't working. The best thing is to be self-aware if you are fighting for too long and have some discipline to tell yourself and the squad that you need to back off of this fight for another chance later. Flexibility and consistency is absolutely key. No one wins every fight in every game, but those that can win more often are the better players. If you can build consistency, you will improve faster and just be better. The best way to build consistency with your gameplay is to be as flexible as you possibly can. This means being proficient with basically everything in the game. This could be swapping to another legend for the benefit of the squad in ranked, being able to run a different loadout so you split ammo even if it's not your typical optimal loadout. Many players feel like they can't function without their loadout or their guns, when in reality, everyone is kind of in this situation. Those who can make more with less will win more fights and be a better, more consistent player. If you want even more ways to build your skill though, be sure to check out this massive 101 tips and tricks video to master your game. Hit that like button. Happy gaming, legends.